Here we go. Hey, everybody, this is Jake Clendenning, cyberbacker, Alaska, Colorado, and Wyoming. Welcome to the first edition of A Leveraged Life. Life with Leverage. We're working on that title. We haven't quite got there, but that's what we're working on. I am an elite executive business coach with MAPS Business Coaching. I'm also the operating principal of those franchises. And we really want to just have a conversation today with some people about what they're doing with leverage, how they're using leverage in their world. And they're just good. They're great friends of mine. We've been friends for years. This is Jeff and Julie Abel, the Abel team out of Estes Park, Colorado. They've got a great background, a great story, and I'm super excited to have you guys here today. So thanks. And tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks for having us, Jake. We really appreciate it. Excited to be your first here on.
Yeah, you say that now.
Go ahead.
Well, we're Jeff and Julie Abel. We've been married almost 28 years this year, and moved out to Colorado in '97, moved up to the mountains to a resort community now 9 years ago. And I've been doing real estate full-time in Estes going on 8 years. Brought Jeff over in 2017 when I was approached by Keller Williams to open a mega agent expansion office. I knew my strengths and knew that I absolutely love working on the relationship side and the buyer side, and knew that I really needed a great marketer, a great detailed person, someone who loves operations. So I wrangled Jeff into coming with me, and we started the Able team in 2017. And that's when we met, I think, Jake.
Yeah, it was 17 when I had been with Keller Williams in Northern Colorado. And at that time when we met, I just became the team leader, the CEO of that office. So that was kind of how we came into being friends, as we started as business acquaintances.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. So really what you're saying, Julie, is you use Jeff as leverage, like family leverage, right out of the gate of I need this guy, and oh yeah, he's free. He can be, yeah. All right.
I totally did that.
Nice. That's awesome. So yeah, and it's been so fun to watch the journey for you guys, and knowing a little bit about what your background is. We'll talk more about that. I've loved watching the journey. I've loved watching the growth. I've loved watching really the mindset growth around your business, around where you're going, where you want to go down the road, how you guys interact with, your family, how you interact with your faith, and just different role models that you've got. I mean, there's so much fun that goes on with you guys that's just awesome to watch. And we all know, right? We've talked about this a million times. Julie and I sat in a room, Quantum Leap, a few years ago, and it was just like a constant gut punch through this entire event of, you're a product of the 5 people you spend the most time around in all aspects of your life. And I'm very fortunate in business and in friendship that you guys are in one of those circles with me. So it's fun to watch you guys grow. And I like to think we kind of push and pull each other, in specific times, which is cool. So,
and we love having fun. That is
right. Yeah. And we've had we've had a lot of fun. It's fun because we've been able to lean on each other in a lot of different times too. We've had some stuff go on in different aspects of it, but we managed to help each other through with some other people, and we got through those pieces to just keep pushing, which is cool. So let's dig into some stuff. So really, we want to talk about like the fun and cool stuff that you guys are doing. So obviously, this is not your house that we are currently hanging out with, right? So why don't you tell everybody where we are right now?
So we're at the Westin Spa and Resort on Kaanapali Beach in Maui right now.
Nice.
Suffering. We're really suffering today. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Would much rather be in the snowy Colorado mountains still.
So we love Colorado. I absolutely adore living in the mountains. But by April, it's tough. It's really tough. There's it's kind of a lot of wind, a lot of snow, and so we have come to Maui now
4 times.
In April with extended trips each time. So this trip is actually 3 weeks, and so we're going to talk about that a little bit and what our business looks like being able to do that. But it's Jeff's happy place for sure. He loves the beach. He loves being here, and it's good for us, good for our business.
Yeah. So I know last year, and I kind of love this story. Last year, when you guys were there, Jeff, you did something new. You did something that you haven't done before for Hawaii. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you did last year.
I've always said I wasn't really a beach person. And a few years ago, we had the chance to come with a group of friends, and we were talking about where to go. And we said, let's go someplace no one's ever been. And a couple of people had been to Hawaii, but not to Maui. So we basically picked Maui just as hey, nobody's ever been there before. Let's go do this. And one of them really wanted to stay at this hotel because of the pool and the beach. And so we came, didn't really spend a whole lot of time in the ocean because I'm not a beach, not a water person. But last year decided to attempt snorkeling, and I'm sort of a water person.
Just
sort of a water
it's
person.
Not as bad, right?
So yeah. I've decided that sea turtles are my spirit animal.
Yep.
But maybe sharks aren't.
Yeah, and that's valid. I'm totally hip with that. Totally hip with that. So we've done some snorkeling too. I've done a little bit of spearfishing, and when a few of my friends found out where I was doing that, they're like, you might not wanna in that particular spot, and here's why. And I went, that's fair. I don't think I'm ever going back there again and getting out of the boat. Perfectly good boat, float, ski. Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, I was completely good with that. So that's awesome. It's all about trying new stuff. It's all about bigger experiences, new experiences, stretching ourselves beyond what we thought we could do, right? So the whole, I'm not a water person, I'm not a beach person, to snorkeling in crystal clear salt water with sea turtles. That's a big deal, man. I love that story. So super, super cool. So what else is awesome going on in the Abel's world right now?
Why don't you talk a little bit about business, where we're at?
Well, I think it's again, it's that chance to kind of refocus. Over the last several months, I think we've gone through a period of kind of, okay, where are we and where do we really want to go?
As everybody has through COVID.
And I think that's part of kind of the process for everybody over the last couple of years. But for us, it was really wrestling through, okay, we know all the things we're supposed to say, but what do we really, really want to do? Like, we don't, for us, not what's expected of us, not what do other people want us to do, but what do we really want to do with this, and why are we doing it? And so that constant going back and reevaluating that. And part of it is that, okay, we want to have experiences like this, and we want to provide those experiences for other people as well, and teach them how to maybe live a bigger life than they think they possibly can. And so I think a lot of that is kind of where we've been of looking at our team, and we've gone back and forth of, do we want a big team? Do we not want a big team? What do we want to do with that? Because I think there's some expectation of, as you grow and as you experience success, you build a bigger team, and you build a bigger team, and you build a bigger team, versus maybe we want a smaller team and to stay more engaged in certain aspects, but not others. And I think that's kind of where we've settled on this, is that we don't want to walk away from the business, but there are certain things that maybe we don't want to be doing in 5 years that we're currently doing. And how do we position ourselves to do that? And there are models to follow, and there are some things we've done inside and outside of models. some that work.
Not ever following a model? What? Yeah.
Some that work, some that didn't. And we're trying some new things with that this year as well. And we can talk a little bit more about kind of our foray into videos and that sort of thing at a deeper level.
Yeah, and you guys have spent a ton of time, on YouTube, and I know that started. You really kind of dug into that about 2 years ago, to where you really started working on the video work. And yeah, we know it takes time. We know it takes a lot of effort. At the time, you had your son doing a lot of the videography and the editing in his never sleeps, works all the time schedule. I can't imagine where he gets some of that work ethic. And he did such fun stuff. We actually tried to hire him for my team. We actually tried to hire him, and bless his soul, right? I don't want to say bless his heart because in the South, that's a wrong thing, right? But like he came to the realization, he's like, you know what? I can't take that on. I have too much. I also want to sleep at some point. So I'm not going to take that.
Us.
And then he fired you guys, right? I mean, because he's starting to follow his path. And that's that lead by example thing that I saw. And you guys are doing more video work now. So how long, we'll touch on that real quick. How long did you work on your video work, which you guys have a ton of fun with? And I watch it, even though I know like the beginning was terror, right? We talked about that, of what it was going to take. And it was just like, there was a lot of that angst in the beginning of it, but it's so good now. I mean, it comes across and it's just practice and it's scripts and it's that type of stuff, but
it's fun now. Like that's
fun now.
Yeah. Muscle memory's kicked in, and that's made it a lot easier. And we got a long way to go still too. And that's exciting.
Sure. All of us do. 2 years ago, most watched video. Which one was it?
Bloopers.
The blooper reel, right? Yeah, which I thought was awesome.
Nothing like being vulnerable in front of
right. But what did that tell us? What was cool about that it told us is everybody liked authentic you.
Right.
They love the real version of us, and that's kind of what this conversation is about today. So let's dig into a couple of those other questions, right? So there's something new that's going on with you guys that I think is amazing, and I think is really, really fun. Different kind of leverage. You guys have been pretty staunch in your living conditions in one spot for a long time. You've done amazing with that. What are you doing now?
So we went to a listing appointment last week, I guess it was. Thought just normal listing appointment, walked in and I saw Julie's kind of eyes get really big. It was a remodel, full remodel in this place. And as we walked around, it became obvious she really loved it. And so we went back, talked a bit, and I think that was a Friday. On Monday, called the sellers and just said, hey, we need to meet again, because I think we're probably interested in purchasing this. So we're going to basically work with them on their timeline to allow them to transition out, and we'll be buying that, moving in sometime this summer, early fall, and renting out our current place that we've had for 3 years now.
But being really conservative through all of this, and taking advantage of equity that we have in our current place, not going crazy on it, allowed us to be ready for this next step and just working really hard. And so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. And I mean, how many times have we heard all the industry leaders within real estate talking about, buy real estate, you should be buying houses, every listing appointment you go on, you should be thinking about buying it for yourself and building this empire. And much to your point, Jeff, we hear all the time about what we should be doing, what other people think we should be doing, but we have to do it in our own time. And that's what I thought was really cool about this one. This was not really on your 411 for the year. It didn't really exist. You guys had talked sort of kind of about, we'd like an investment property down the road. The mindset came there. You kind of thought, well, we'd like to do that. The right thing showed up, and all the things aligned in the right way because you were thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, we had walked into another property earlier in the year and it was like, maybe this could work. Could we do this? And the timing just was not there. But that, I think, had put us in the mindset of, hey, we need to be really looking at this, because now we're at a place we've laid the foundation that we needed to lay in the business and in our personal lives to be able to make that move for the first time. And this has opened the opportunity then for us to be able to look at it and go, okay, we want to do this 2 or 3 more times in the next 3 to 4 years.
Well, and talking about be, do, have, I mean, this space is everything I would have wanted in a somewhere to live permanently. We had done the work. We had consistently done the work to get to that place. And so now moving forward into have, that just was a great example for me of that mindset to be able to work into that.
Yeah, no, I that's why I'm so excited about it, right? Because you guys are just living that lifestyle, conservative as it is, awesome. We see other people not as conservative, that may react a tad, now and again due to other things. Last year, as I recall, it was a 5-foot blizzard in March, as I recall, that pretty much like I may have thrown a bit of a temper tantrum. And that happened. Yeah, you might have gotten that phone call. I'm pretty sure you did. So yeah.
Jake's moving. He's
yeah.
He's
and yet nobody was even sort of surprised. Like there was no shock from anyone of Jake overreacting. So all good. So talk to me about this one, right? Because we're just talking about bigger life. So who are your people? Who are your pets? Like who's the important? I know you've got a couple kids and a couple of furry kids. Tell the world who they are.
Got we have adult kids, which is awesome. We have a daughter who is junior senior-ish in college right now, and we have our son Jake that you talked about, and he is 25 working full-time, and then we have 2 sheepadoodles who are absolutely adorable and a lot of work too. So we've transitioned to dog parents.
To dog parent. Although the last puppy very recently almost seemed like we were going to not do that. That would seem like it was a little more traumatic.
If anybody does want a sheepadoodle,
they're home now.
Might be available.
That's the responsibility piece, and for me, that's why, in the short game, that's what I'm working for is kids and making up for work. We were in the nonprofit sector for years and years and years, and so real estate has become a way for us to really dig in, work hard, and change some family tree dynamics there concerning thoughts about wealth.
Yeah, and that had been what, 4 years ago? I think 4 years ago, we sat down and we had a pretty deep conversation about that one on both sides, right? Just old theories and old thoughts and old patterns and really moving forward. And a word came out of that weekend that I know you use a lot. You always do your one word for the year too. That's a totally different thing, which I love that. I've bought into that wholeheartedly. But a word that you guys have carried with you is legacy. And I've watched that one go forward. And you mentioned it a minute ago, is we're about creating opportunities for other people. And again, it's a different type of leverage, right? We're using a different thought process. And that's what we're doing. We're just trying to understand the different leverages. So in the things you want to do for other people, right? And what you're trying to do and build a legacy for other people, who do you have in your world right now that you're thinking, all right, if we do this, it'll help them do this?
I mean, obviously our kids are a big piece of that. And we go back and forth on that a lot as far as what do we want to leave them? And what's a good thing to leave them?
What's responsible?
What's responsible, and what still makes them take some responsibility. And so part of the investment piece is eventually we want to bring them into that and have them investing with us in properties rather than us investing and just handing it to them at some point. And we've started retirement accounts for them. So part of that is the teaching them new mindsets about wealth and money and lifestyles and those things as well.
That we absolutely, our parents didn't have that ability.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys are really the generation. You're the marker, in your family tree of where it made the left. That's the wrong way to say it. I was going to say made the left turn. We didn't make our left turn. We stayed on the road, right? You guys are the marker that is growing straight and narrow.
So how do we build stuff? And I say stuff, whether that's lessons, whether that's possessions, whatever that is, that allows them to continue that with their families down the road as well. So it's that generational impact of mindset about money and what you do with it. Again, we've gone from, hey, we came from the nonprofit world and we've got to have these grand visions for how we impact the world, versus I think over the course of the last few years, we've realized we're not going to change the world. I'm too tired to change the world most days. I want to change the lives of the people around me.
Yes.
And so it's the the people I work for, the people that work for me, how do we make them have better lives? And then our community, our friends, our neighbors, how do we live in a way and impact people in a way that not only gives them money financially, which is part of what we'd love to do, but also opens up opportunities,
gives experiences,
and does that. So we've got a couple different groups of friends that are coming to join us on this trip, just to they needed a break and they needed to get away. And so we've got a place for 3 weeks. We're going to spend some time alone the first week, and then we're having 2 different groups of friends come in to share the experience with. We get to spend some time with them, connecting again, and that's just part of why we want to do and be able to do these things.
Working on a community level is really important to me. Being involved and engaged in boards that are making major impacts in our community, that being able to give freely to those. One of the things we've talked about, Jake, it's been very important for me that my kids are able to start out as young adults with no debt. Because we just didn't have that luxury. Our parents weren't able to do that with college and any savings. They were hard workers. Both of our parents, it just wasn't an option for them. And so for us to be able to get our kids started on the right foot with no debt, and like in our daughter's case, that's cash flowing her college. She has a degree of commitment from scholarships that she's done. So she's holding that commitment. And then we're making good on that for her because she's going to be a teacher.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge deal, right? Because we know educational system is not exactly a get rich quick or ever kind of plan. So, I mean, to be able to provide that opportunity to get out of school, 0 debt, with a nice, fresh, like clean printed, it isn't, there's not a bill due at the bottom of that diploma, to be able to march forward in that world, to be able to set her up for that kind of success, only pours forward. We know what she will be able to do because both your kids are just insanely talented. And we know what she's going to be from an impact standpoint, the voice she's going to have and be able to impact that other youth in such a way. It's going to be amazing. I'm super stoked for that. That's super, super good. So let's take a couple of them. So give me, I know Julie's and I love this one, but I'm going to ask Jeff first. Who is your biggest role model?
Several people, and obviously different fields, right? It's one of the things I love about the company we're in is that emphasis of having role models, having people to look up to for different things, because there are a lot of people that seem to have it all together and they may be great in business, but their family life is a disaster. And so to try to emulate one person is probably not going to lead to a great path for most things. So there's some spiritual mentors. Ray Vanderlaan, who I got to study under a little bit, do a couple trips to Israel with his groups. Huge impact for me and changed kind of a lot of how I think about faith, from a someday maybe standpoint to a practically how do we live today standpoint, and a lot of that. As far as real estate, one of my former students, I worked in higher ed nonprofit world in a previous life. One of my students actually is who invited us to a Ben Kinney event with KW.
Right.
It was Ben Kinney and Tim Heil. I was in the process of taking classes, but hadn't fully committed to making the real estate jump yet. And we went to this event, and Dave Umphris took us, and my eyes were just wide open. After hearing Ben, his story and his background, and kind of what he grew up with and how his life changed through real estate and sales and building his team and creating those opportunities for other people, was a huge impact on me. And that's what really pushed me over the edge to go, okay, this isn't just selling a house. This is making an impact in people's lives. And I think that was the biggest trajectory for me to get me into real estate. And then we've continued to do several trainings with Ben and his team as well. And It's just it's having people open your eyes to what's possible. And whether you decide to go that path or not doesn't really matter. Knowing that it's possible if you want to is what really makes the difference, I think.
Yeah, because your mind never is going to shrink back to where it was.
Right.
Once you know it's possible, you know it. You can't unknow it. You can't just, pull it out of there. It ain't going to work. So yeah, and Ben does, man. Ben's got a great story. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago at family reunion, he got up and told the whole Ben story, which that was for me, that was the moment he became like, I guess human, I guess would be the word, right? Before it was just, pictures and CEOs and whatever, and I'd heard his voice and things, but that was the connection for me, that it was like he was a real person.
Yeah.
And that was a great moment for me. So Julie, for role models for you, who's some role models for you?
So when I first got into real estate in Estes Park, one of the cool things about our community is there are a number of really strong female entrepreneurs who were first in their fields with their companies. And they were awesome. I got in and learned a ton from a lot of them, a lot of good things and a lot of not so good things about balance and leverage and what you can and can't do. I watched their models. And now going into this next stage of our business, really understanding and implementing different things and carving our own path from the ways that they did it. But I still appreciate kind of that older generation. They're not, that boomer generation of real estate. And as a Gen Xer coming in, just really learned a lot from those female agents and entrepreneurs. And then, it's funny, I joke, but, one of my avatars or, kind of models is Dolly Parton. I absolutely have followed her career since I was a little girl. Love what she's done with her community on such a big scale, and just being able to have that big personality, being a little shiny. I kind of like that. And so just how she was able to come from really a place of poverty and work really, really hard through, 40 years to make an impact, and is still very creative and still very much in it. And so it's just somebody who I've always admired.
Yeah, no, and I love that one. And it's, one of the things we've talked about a little bit, and that kind of helped you think about this generational wealth piece, was that role model of Dolly Parton, is just really putting it into place to where she believed it was okay, right, to have, it's okay to have the wealth. It's okay to do it. It's also okay to help other people. And that was the connection to where you went, you know what? Yeah, it is. It's totally okay to do that. And that's when you made that particular connection, that was when I really started to see you move in a big way, because you decided it was okay. And you said, you know what, this is where I want to go. Back to the start of our conversation. Doesn't matter what other people want or other people want us to do or how they want us to do it. It's really the connection of how we're going to do it on our own.
Right.
Of what's important to us. So I loved that connection from that aspect. So what do you think's the driving force for you guys? And we'll talk about numbers a little bit, because you guys have some pretty epic numbers going on. What's really the driving force for you to succeed at the level that you are?
Oh, you go with that one, just because
it's interesting, because we've actually, this has been a conversation we've had all week. And it's, I don't know if you're familiar with StrengthsFinder, the Gallup StrengthsFinder stuff. I did that back when I was in the nonprofit education world with our students a bit. And one of Julie's former director of operations in the nonprofit world is actually a coach for them now. So we retook the tests again, because it, it had been several years since I had done it. And I was in a different life at that point with what I was doing.
Right.
So I was like, I want to see if anything has shifted a little bit based on kind of what I've been doing for the last 5 to 7 years now. And a few things had. Competition is my number one strength. It was number 2 before. Competition is high for me. Achiever is high. So a lot of my drive comes out of, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it all the way. I don't halfway do much of anything. It's either I'm all in or I'm all out. Tim Grover's book, Winning, I don't know if you're familiar with it. He was coach with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. We actually read that together, and I was like, now you see why I kind of do some of the things I do. It's if it's worth doing, it's worth doing the best you can do it, and it's worth winning. And so that drive for me, I think, is that it's more of an internal. The external comes from seeing other people succeed and going, we can do that, and I can do this better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I love that. He's relentless and winning. I mean, they're wonderful road trip books. Like if you want to just like head down and you can get into something, those are great books to go through. And I love the story. I mean, I love the whole story. It's really, really good if you dig down to the bare roots of it. So yeah, I love those.
Now, the challenge with that, though, Jake, is that if you're there all the time, it can lead you to some pretty dark places as well. And I think kind of coming out of one of those darker places for me is, okay, why aren't we doing what we need to be doing? Why aren't we getting where we want to get going as fast as I want to get there? And I balanced that with a new book, The Gap versus the Gain.
Oh, great one.
And trying to find that balance between the two. Of my natural is we're going full speed, we're going here, and everybody's on board, let's go. And we've got this much further to go, and we're always looking at what we've got to still achieve to get to where we want to be, versus and Julie's more
maximizer is my number one strength.
Oh yeah.
So it's looking back and, okay, this is how far we've come, and
incremental, celebrate the small wins. Yeah.
So that's been a good eye-opening book in light of how I'm naturally driven.
It's helped our business and our marriage.
That's totally valid. I mean, Stacy and I are in the same boat. We've all sat down and talked about this a lot. Is Jeff and I are a lot alike in a lot of ways, right? Is that's where we're going, and the blinders go on and we're going there. And we're going to march down that road, but I may not have checked the whole vehicle to see if everybody was in it before I took off and started blazing down the road. So once we came to that realization of take a moment, take a breath, remove the blinders, make sure the door is closed, seatbelts are applied. Now we're all going the same direction. It is amazing how much faster we get there. Right. Yeah. And I agree that's kind of the really fun dynamic of married to your business partner too, right? There's good and there's bad, right? And I shouldn't even say good and bad, but there's awesome and there's challenge, right? That I would say is where those are. And so with that, like Hawaii is a great one. And I know there's a lot of reasons you guys are there. You guys are in business together a lot, all the time doing that. How do you separate it? How are you guys being purposeful in saying there's Jeff and Julie, the married couple, and there's the Abel team over here?
Oh, that's hard.
We're not very good at it, to be honest. I mean, it's we're at the point in life where our kids are out. It's really hard in the morning to get up and have a cup of coffee and be sitting in the living room and not talk about work stuff at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so sometimes it's one of us will be like, what time is it? What time is it? Can this conversation wait?
Right. And we give each other permission for that. But the great thing is I love to work. I love to work. I love the physicality of it. I love the mental stimulation of it. And so we both are so driven. One of the other things with that strength finder, we came back and remembered and realized we both have that significance in a high placement in our top 5, both of us. And so we know and are intentional in what we're doing day to day that, okay, is this wasting time? But when we knock up, probably where we find the most balance for he and I both are in the evenings. Like we do tend to shut it down and are able to do that. But from the moment we wake up.
When I think part of it is just our background too, like I mentioned, I was in higher ed student affairs stuff. So I lived in dorms with students. So we were on call 24/7. So there was really no time work ever ended. And I did student affairs stuff for 17 years.
And
So
it's just part of the
that
marriage.
was just kind of part of our life, is work can happen at any time, which presents challenges, but it made the transition into real estate a little bit easier too. In that, hey, when something happens, we know how to go deal with it and then step back and unwind again.
And then come back really quickly. Like that's the other thing too. You know, we're at a great place in our career. It's, you know, deals are going to fall apart. Things are going to happen. When they do, yeah, we lick the wounds for a couple hours or whatever, but then are able to get reoriented quickly.
Back on it. Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about where your business is right now. Right. So like last year, let's go with, this is a fun number. Let's go total volume last year. What did you guys do in Estes Park last year in volume?
We were right at 20 million.
Right at 20 million. How big is Estes Park for all of the people viewing this that don't really?
Year-round residents about 6,000, but lots of second homes, vacation rentals, that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, kind of a resort community.
Resort community right at the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yep, exactly. So I mean, we're talking $20 million of volume in a community of 6,000 residents, right? That's pretty profound for the other people in real estate that are listening to this. That's pretty profound a number. It's a lot in per capita kind of gauge. There are a lot of real estate professionals that are in much larger markets that are doing nowhere close to that. And this is where this question comes in, right? This is the leverage piece. So originally it started moving because Julie said, I want to go talk to the people. I want to spend my time with the buyers. And there was a time that Julie was like 100% buyer's agent. I will not deal with sellers. And she was like adamant about that, like swear on the Bible kind of stuff. I am not moving off of this position. It's a little less than that now, which I'm excited about. But she used Jeff as leverage, said, okay, I need you to do A, B, C, and D. Come in and do this so we can do that. And Jeff stepped into it. And now, as we build a team, who do we have on the team now?
So, well, we started leverage really early because we heard that message pretty clearly. We didn't do it in the right order, probably. So we got into business. We launched our team in April of 2017, I guess it was. And that fall I had a heart attack, which knocked me out of the business a little bit. Julie had to step in and do the things she didn't really want to do. And we realized really quickly we needed a transaction coordinator to help kind of keep paperwork in order and organized and deals flowing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody noticed how quickly he glassed over that particular moment of, oh yeah, this thing happened, right? Yep. That it just kind of blew by, perhaps it blew by for you in the way that it was, but I remember the rest of us were a tad more concerned than that as that went forward. And we're, grace of God, we're so grateful that you are with us and everything came through and you're sailing forward and doing really well. And that's amazing. And, but the moment was not awesome. So,
no,
but yeah,
no, it wasn't awesome for anyone, I don't think. And honestly, that was kind of as you can imagine, let's reevaluate moment.
Right.
Not the scenic helicopter ride you want to take to the hospital for that one, but it really kind of helped us go, okay, well, we need help. Like we need to figure out who's going to be able to help us do the things in business that we don't need to be doing or couldn't do at that point. And so that was huge. And actually Maui became part of that story as well. That was about the time we booked our first trip to Maui, and we joked that it was the Jeff didn't die trip.
Jeff didn't die.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, it was a scary time. I think more so for her, I felt, obviously it was a big deal, but it felt like it was just I knew everything was going to be okay somehow.
So that several weeks, 4 weeks after he's recovering and I'm back in the office by myself and looking at these files and like, oh my gosh, talking with you and other market center leadership and then giving me recommendations because I just was overwhelmed with the paperwork because I need to go out and get deals, but then what do we do, because he's not available. When he did come back, he was like, what did you do to my files? It was crazy. That's what I was laughing about before, but since then we've had a TC from the get-go, and she's amazing. She's an amazing asset for our team that allows us, just to be able to breathe a little bit and not have to chase after paperwork. And
that's a pretty common first step in leverage for most agents in the market, is they think first thing I need is a transaction coordinator.
Yep.
That's pretty common from a thought process. Now you guys did it not as a, well, it'd be nice to do that. You guys kind of took it on as a, holy crap. We're at a place which, guilty of a lot of us, that's when we do it, is it takes a manage by emergency. I'm not different. I did the same thing.
But we never looked back. We never went and did it and
and then stepped back out of it. Right. You don't, and neither did we. So, and that's an amazing piece. So then we went from transaction coordinator. What's the next piece of leverage you guys pulled?
So we brought on a buyer's agent for about 6 months, and it was great. It helped us tremendously cover when we were out of town, and she was actually fantastic. And then as we started our annual planning, just realized that we were headed in different directions. What she wanted out of her career was perfect for her and where her family was at that time, but that's not where we were headed. And so we just decided to go ahead and part ways there. Have been great friends and still support her in what she's doing. Just realized that it wasn't the time and the place for us at that point. And so went through a process and just worked with our transaction coordinator for a while. And then the next phase was really looking to bring on an admin executive assistant.
Yep. And I know you guys did in-house. So you had a physical person.
So we brought that one in-house. So our transaction coordinator is external from us in the area, but it doesn't matter where she is.
Sure.
And it's all remote and it's all contract work per transaction. We decided to bring somebody in-house.
And now we have an operations director, which is kind of one step up even from that, where they're doing a lot more hands-on client care and event
planning,
event coordination and things. Yep.
Content creation for us on our social media stuff. So we brought in the admin executive assistant a week before COVID hit, which was fantastic timing. So we did a lot of training remotely over Zoom for that. Got her up to speed. She stayed with us for about 1.5 years before she transitioned out of that role. And we started looking for that next person of, okay, who do we need now to help us get to that next level? And we've talked a lot about this, Jake. It's sometimes it's the tool that you need to get you to the next level. And more often than not, it's probably a who.
It's probably a who. Yeah.
It's probably a who. And so, and I'm a really loyal person. And so having who's change in some ways is challenging for me. And in some ways it's we're going to part ways and you're going to be able to go do what you need to do at this stage of life too. And then we're going to find the next two. And I've become more and more comfortable with that over time, because having the wrong who for that time frame is really a disservice to that person as well. And so while it's inconvenient for us to make that change to keep somebody in a position that they've outgrown or aren't qualified for and aren't going to thrive in, is really unfair to that person as much as it is to you and the rest of the team.
And again, going back to models and systems, that's Jeff learning that through going through Ben Kenny's
career visioning
training,
several other things. So this past fall, we were able to bring on a director of ops, Randy, and he has been phenomenal. Helped us get some systems put in place that we we had sort of roughly put together, but provided a lot of the behind the scenes daily accountability of tracking all the numbers to help us know exactly where we were every day.
Right. And that accountability piece is such a huge piece. And you guys also have, you've had a coach for years. That's another accountability piece and another piece of leverage, right? So that's that's always the fun part for me as a coach, is how we never get named as the leverage in the business, which is kind of funny, because the reality is we're paying them a salary, quite frankly, as a coach. They're an integral part of they're right up there with an employee of the business as a straight up consultant. And it's that person. So we don't think of them as leverage. I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic. And
we started out with my coach, Heather. And then when I transitioned out of some of my roles with the team a couple of years ago to take on a couple other projects, we kept the same coach because she knew our business. And she was going to be able to take Julie and push her. So Julie transitioned from her coach, who had been great for a season, to my coach, who is going to understand the dynamics of the team, but provide Julie a different perspective. And so it's just been that constant, okay, who is seeing our business from a different perspective than we are, that can give input.
And Jake, you've been one of those coaches for our team as well, just to be able to come in and take the lid off and go, and get us to a place where we see it ourselves. It's there's an art form in that, but just those are all leverage pieces that we've had, and it's hard because sometimes people talk about leverage, and I think it gets thrown out in our industry as well as other industries, and it kind of feels icky a little bit, and so we just want to be very clear on that. It's a partnership. It is such a partnership, and I want to just kind of be a champion for that with leverage and helping people understand it's partners that you bring in.
Well, and we talked about the video piece earlier. We've brought in a videographer part-time. He's a contract worker for us right now, but we're exploring what the possibility down the road would be as we expand what we're doing with video. But it was it was great having our son do it. And it was great, paying him the salary we were paying him, but to take it to that next level, we needed somebody who actually knew this. And so we looked around and we said, who do we know? And it was one of our photographers that did our property photos and videos for us. And we're like, hey, can we hire you on the side to do some just videography work for us for our YouTube channel? Right. And so it's that, again, bringing in those pieces as the business grows for what you need at that moment. And kind of, I think one of the things you had mentioned we wanted to talk about was just that, what is leverage? And it's obviously it can be people, but it's also tools. It's tactics. It's anything that, at least to me, anything that allows you to give up some of the time you're spending on tasks that you don't need to be doing to grow the business or have some free time. I mean, leverage can be, hey, I want to be able to focus only on the things in business that I can do and have other people do those other things to grow the business. And that's a great use of leverage. And that's how most people think of it. But also leverage is hey, I just want to have some free time every now and then, and I can hire somebody else to do it. House cleaners, great leverage, great for a marriage, because that frees up time for us to be able to spend together where we would be working other things that aren't
something else,
aren't revenue generating for us.
Right.
And so it's that finding the balance of how are we leveraging to grow the business, and are we being intentional about it? And how are we leveraging to have free time, and are we being intentional about it? Because I think a lot of people convince themselves they're leveraging to grow the business when they're really leveraging to have free time.
Right.
And that's what it's all about, right? It's a leveraged life. It's what is my life look like? What are the things that are the highest and best use of somebody else's time? or highest and best use of money I'm not using a different way in that way. So wrapping this up, looking at your business in a few years, right? As you march forward, you guys have a pretty clear vision of where you want to go. Next piece of leverage in line, what is it? What needs to happen next?
I think it's obviously for us, finalizing some systems that allow us to add some team members, to be away from the business more often. We're looking at different models as far as agents on the team. And what does that look like? Is that other agents in Estes Park? Is it down in the Front Range of Colorado and Loveland, Longmont, Fort Collins? Is it agents in Maui? And can we spend more time here and have a business that we run here where we partner with other agents to bring them into the team, and we're still handling a lot of the negotiations and the contracts and those sorts of things, interacting with clients at client events in both locations or wherever we might be, but also then having other agents that can go out and show property and can go on listing appointments when we're not around, that free us up to do some of those things that we haven't been able to do at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. So
And-
looking, yeah, go ahead, Julie.
And for me, Jake, it's really honing this year. What I'm focused on is that time on task, money-making activities for our team to generate to the business for that long-term, view of growing the team. And what does that look like? So I feel more focused than I ever have on that. And that's part of that discussion that we're having right now.
Yeah, I mean, so you guys are, and I know you're using this a little bit like a couples retreat, a little bit of a business retreat, stuff gets done. So one thing I want to bring up that you told me about something cool that happened on the plane while you're coming to Hawaii, right? So this can we do the business in both places, right? So what were you doing on the plane on the flight over?
Well, so I don't like to talk about deals that are out because I'm
They're
really
not done yet.
I'm really superstitious. So it's
Yeah,
but
so
just
stroke it.
writing contracts for luxury listings for clients and having them feel really good about what they're putting forward and getting under contract. That's always exciting. And it is funny, we joke as real estate agents is, oh man, if you want to get busy, just go on vacation. But doing this the last 4 or 5 years has shown, 4 years have shown us, yes, we can maintain a business and get away. We can, absolutely, technology allows for this and it's expected.
So yeah, Julie wrote the offer on the plane, got here, had another property that we were getting ready to list that we had put on hold for a little bit. Seller called and said, hey, we want you to go ahead and get this live. Julie started calling her buyers again to say, hey, this property is coming. In our first 48 hours of being on vacation, we put $3.4 million of property under contract.
Right, which I thought was awesome. So if we
It's
go
crazy.
back to it proves it can be done, right? This is the possibility thinking that we were talking about. And if you look back to like Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week, back in 2008 is when he wrote that. Like he was looked at as a lunatic. That can't be done. You can't do that. And the reality is, yeah, he did it. And now it's just all of us going, okay, in my business, what does that look like for me? What leverage do I have? Who's that are in place, as leverage that can help me push that business forward. So just final thoughts for everybody. What do you guys got today?
Well, I mean, I think again, we know each other pretty well. I appreciate, because you've always been an advocate for us for, okay, who do you need? What's the next piece of leverage? What do you need to grow your business? And to know that you're out there doing that for other people
It's awesome.
is huge. Because we've seen it in our life and how it's changed ours. We've seen it in your lives and other agents. And a lot of agents are in a place where it's hard to hire somebody in person right now.
Yeah.
We got lucky because we weren't sure we were going to be able to find the person we needed in a small town to take us to the next level. We got really lucky, but we're also exploring okay, what what can we use a VA for? So if you don't have a video editor, there are VAs that can do that. The world has drastically changed, and especially during COVID with everybody doing remote work, the opportunities to grow your business and find that leverage are unlike they've ever been any time in history up to this point.
Well, we've talked about other agents coming on. We also are very much looking out. Our operations director maybe, in 6 months have so much business with what we have in our pipeline right now that it may be he's getting VAs.
He's getting leverage for our admin team.
Yeah. Nope, totally.
But we just have the view, like we're scanning the horizon of what this is, instead of being head down, deal. We're able to be more strategic because of the leverage that we have in place.
And I'm a bit of a control freak. I know that's shocking.
But I am shocked.
But learning to give up some of those things that aren't the best use of my time, that allow somebody else to use their giftings and their talents and their strengths on,
and can do it so much
and
faster.
can do it way faster than I can, has been huge. And so I think for anybody out there listening, it is that, what are you doing that you don't love doing, but you are having trouble letting go of because of control reasons, or you think you can't afford it? And if you were spending that time doing lead generating and following up with past clients and building relationships, how much more successful would you be? And it would offset that cost 100-fold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, amen to that. Jeff and Julie, thank you so much for taking time. As always, you guys are always so gracious with your time and helping other people and pouring in. And it's just some of the things I love about you guys. And you took the time while you're in Hawaii too. This was let's book an hour. We can totally do that. And we know you guys are headed right back to the pool. So I'm super grateful for you guys today. And thank you so much for coming out. We're so happy to have you today.
Thanks, Jake. Bye.